أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبا القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. Dear brothers and sisters, may Allah accept your fasting, Allah accept your acts of worship, and may He bestow His blessings and tidings upon you in this holy month of Ramadan. Shahr Ramadan is the month of guidance. It is the month that we are trying to become better and get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you look at the signs of guidance, how can somebody become guided? We said that there are a few signs. One, how do you know that the nur of guidance, the nur of inshirahul qalb, that your heart has opened up for Islam, has occurred? Is that there are a few signs. One is that you turn away from this world. When a person is guided, when a person reaches a higher level of guidance, you see that they focus less on the dunya. Dunya is less in their minds, in their hearts. They have less love of dunya and material pleasures. Again, not that you don't work, but your heart is not there. Your heart is somewhere else. Where is your heart at? Akhirah, the hereafter. Do you feel this way in Shahr Ramadan compared to other months? That your heart has turned from the dunya and has turned to the akhirat? If you have that feeling, know that you are benefiting from this month. If you still have the same inclinations and the same desires as you had before, know that Shahr Ramadan things are not working well. Because the sign of inshirahul qalb, that my heart is now open, the signs is that I will be facing the hereafter. And the other sign is that I will be remembering death, dhikr al-maut, remembrance of death. I'll be preparing myself for death. Because I understand that how Imam Ali alayhi salam says, that this world is nothing but a bridge. What do you do in a bridge? You pass by it. Or others have explained, they gave examples, you can look at them. It's like going to a hotel, and you check into this hotel and you start remodeling the floor, remodeling, the cabinets. You redo, the ceiling, whatever there is to redo. Then, people find things to redo all the time. And somebody asks you, what are you doing? He says, hey, I'm remodeling the hotel. He says, well, you're only living here for 1 or 2 days. Why are you going to move out and you're spending all this money and time? The same example is in this world. We keep building this world, focusing on this world. For what? We're going to be leaving this world at the end. So we understand the uselessness. If somebody does not build the hereafter and has only built this world, do you know what will happen? They will fear death. They will fear the hereafter. Because they're fearing something that is built. I'm going to be moved into something that's annihilated and destroyed. Nobody wants to move into destruction. So therefore, these topics of death and barzakh and the hereafter are extremely important for us in Shahr Ramadan. If you don't want to think of death and the hereafter, what other time period are you going to think about it? Shahr Ramadan is the best time to answer these 3 questions. May Allah have mercy on a person that has answers for these 3 questions. Min ayn. If I ask you right now, dear brother, dear sisters, Min ayn, where are you from? What is the answer? Where are we from? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the mabda, the source. Fi ain, where am I right now? It's my test. It's the test that each clock, as you look at the clock and each minute and second is passing by, my life is becoming shorter and shorter. And ila ain, where are you going to go to? Where is your final destination? Constantly when you look at the Quran, and the Quran wakens us up. Constantly when you look at the Quran, maybe about 1/3 of the Quran is about the hereafter. It's about the life, the next life. Why? Because mankind forgets. How many times, I'll ask you today, did you think of death today? Did you think that if I were to die, what would happen to me? Did I think of the hereafter? Did I make my intention that Allah gave me another life and I don't necessarily have to have another day to live? He has given it to me. And what did I do in the last 24 hours? Ask yourselves this question in Shahr Ramadan. Are you facing the akhirat or are you facing the dunya? Is your fasting in a way that only remains thirst and hunger for you? And that your heart has not changed? Your heart does not face where you're supposed to worship God, to become close to God, to reach your full potential. The prophets of God came with a message, and that message is to give you life and hayat. Do you feel more alive this Shahr Ramadan? Do you feel hayat in this Shahr Ramadan? If you feel life, then know that fasting and the requirements and prerequisites of this month are working for you. Because all of this is happening so that you can be in the banquet of Allah. And He is inviting you to Himself. But how many people are there that fast, that pray, but at the end they do not become closer to God? So we are tired. Shahr Ramadan is a time for us that we're tired of our normal life. Just talking, for example, or just thinking about the other things that are useless and focusing and wasting my life. If we're going to wake up, when are we going to wake up? An-nasun niyam, people are asleep. When they die in tabahu, when they were put in the grave, then they'll see, oh, all of this was true. Every hadith, every verse of the Quran was true. Why didn't I benefit of the hereafter? So one of the topics we talked about last night that woke us up a little bit, hopefully, that is a scary topic. And alhamdulillah, you guys are brave enough to come again tonight. I thought when I had the topic of the angel of death, Israel, I thought maybe half would not show up because you thought Israel would come here as well. But alhamdulillah, you see, for now, he did not come here so far. He visits us. We said the traditions. Sometimes we understand 5 times a day he visits your home. He visits you. And he's wondering, who is next in line for his life to be taken. That we said, look, the purpose of these discussions is not to scare. The purpose of these discussions is that we can prepare. And once you prepare and understand the purpose of life, the beauty of Azrael or Israel, you say that actually, you know what? My life is in God's hands. He gives me a time span. And whenever that time span is over, that ajal comes, He will take me. Before that, nobody can do anything. He is just a messenger of God, an angel of God. So therefore, we talked about the angel of death. For the mu'min, for the pious person, we said the angel of death is very beautiful. And we said we like to compliment the angel of death. We actually have narrations and du'as that we send salutations to Israel. Why are you so afraid? Why do you always have to backbite him? Why do you always have to be afraid of him? Send salutations. He's the angel of Allah. He's one of the 4 main angels. Today we're going to talk about another topic which is very important for us. And I think that Shahr Ramadan is a time period for that person that wants to take heed and to change themselves truly is barzakh. Who knows here what barzakh means? What does barzakh mean? Maybe everyone here after the end, for sure they won't show up anymore. What does barzakh mean? Barrier. Very good. Is this word barzakh ever used in the Holy Quran? Yes. How many times has it been used in the Quran, this word itself? At least once. Very good. So barzakh means barrier. It means, some say, purgatory. It means that there is a barrier from when you get, this life, when death happens to you, until the hereafter, the day of resurrection happens. Barzakh is, when you look at the traditions, is a taste of Yawm al-Qiyamah. Is rawdatun min riyad al-Jannah. Is either heaven. The person dies. They go into the grave and they see that this grave is very open. And it's like a heaven. It's like gardens. And they see at the same time that another person is a hufra of fire, is a ditch of the hellfire for them, is a taste. Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam. And Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajjal farajahum. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam tells us, especially the followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, he tells them this, that be careful of barzakh, be careful of the grave. Because the shafa'at of Ahlul Bayt will inshallah reach the lovers of Ali alayhi salam in the day of judgment. But be careful of barzakh. That's when we will be cleansed. That's when we'll become clean. That is when we will be purified. That is where the pressure of the grave is. That is where the questions of the grave are. The questions. These are all topics that are serious. I know that sometimes we don't like to talk about serious topics, but these questions. Man Rabbuk? Where is this asked? Man Nabiyuk? Who's your prophet? Who's your Lord? Man Waliyuk, for example. And the sad thing is, many people think these are questions that are very easy. I already know the answers, right? Worst comes to worst, I'll take a little cheat sheet or something when I put it by my coffin. I'll look at my cheat sheet and I'll tell the angels. But the problem is this. When somebody gets shaken up by Sakaratul Maut, because this was a series that we started before Sha'ban and Rajab, they tend to forget. Unless faith is part of you, your chest, your iman, your heart, death shakes us up so much that a person that said, Man Nabiyu can answer today, Allah Jalla Jalalu. But in the hereafter, he cannot. He'll be shaken up so much. They ask him, Man Rabbuk? They can't say it, God forbid. Or what will happen is, we talked about this, during death, the shayateen come, and they come to take away that person's iman. They trick them, they show them different things, ta'alluqat, attachments of this world. Things they like. You say, you like these? You're attached? And they steal and snatch your faith at the last moment. So this is a serious thing. So barzakh is a place of questioning. Barzakh is a place where we see pressure of the grave. Let's start with the Holy Quran. Let's give a salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Alhamdulillah, I've brought my TV with me today, so I can't misread anything. And obviously, we have a long night. We have lots of notes because we have a large TV in front of me. I'm just going to read away, inshallah. So the Quran says, Surah 23, verse 99, 100. حتى إذا جاء أحدهم الموت قال ربي ارجعون. When death comes to one of them, he says, my Lord, take me back. Unfortunately, it's too late. They says, take me back. I want to go back. Let me say, La ilaha illallah. When somebody says, La ilaha illallah, right before death happens, the narration says, Dakhal al-Jannah. You enter heaven. Make sure, one of the tips I gave is, if this happens, very fast they say, La ilaha illallah, you'll enter heaven, inshallah. He says, God, take me back. لَعَلِّي أَعْمَلُ صَالِحًا. I wish I could be brought back to do more good, help people out, do more salat, do more dhikr. I wish I was more serious about my religion. I wish I took Shahr Ramadan more seriously. I wish I took fasting and benefited from fasting. فيما تركت كلا إنها كلمة هو قائلها ومن ورائهم برزخ إلى يوم يبعثون. So by no means these are mere words. Ahead of them is barzakh until the day they are resurrected. So therefore we see this barzakh, this word, this purgatory is in the Quran. But does the Holy Quran describe everything of barzakh? No, this is when we need the traditions. The Quran talks about barzakh. The Quran talks about the life of the hereafter. But in order to understand in detail, we need the ahadith. We need the narrations. Let's talk about the first narration. The first stage of life, real life of the hereafter, is barzakh. That's where first life starts. And we said that an example of the angel of death is like a midwife, a person that delivers a child. Because Israel is delivering us, like a child gets delivered from its mom, into the new world and becomes alive. So in this fresh new world, the first stage of it is barzakh. Inna al-qabra, the Prophet of Islam is narrated to have said, Inna al-qabra awwalu manazil al-akhirah. There are stages of the hereafter. Stage one is where? Barzakh. فَإِن نَجَى مِنْهُ فَمَا بَعْدَهُ أَيْسَرُ. But if he is saved from this barzakh, what comes afterwards is easier. But if he's going to be tortured and tormented in barzakh, فَمَا بَعْدَهُ أَشَدُّ مِنْهُ. But if he's tortured more, then what happens after that is even worse. Once Imam Qadhim alayhi salam saw a body. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajma'in. This salawat will mention one of the things that gives light to the grave is salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Let's give another one. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. وقال عليه السلام in the qabr hadara. He saw someone in the grave. And think about it. This life we have, all this, fanciness some have, prestige, honor, and then there's this hole, they throw him in a hole. They put him in a hole. After all that, it doesn't matter if you're the king, if you're the queen, however much people respected you, however, if you're a billionaire or trillionaire, whatever you are, at the end you'll be put in that ditch, that hole. So Imam Qadhim gives us a lot of hikmah and says, إِنَّ شَيْئًا هَذَا آخِرُ لَحَقِيقٌ أَنْ يَزْهَدَ فِي أَوَّلِهِ. If this is the akhirah of everything, then it's important to disdain from the awwala, from the beginning of it. Because at the end, this is what happens. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you did. At the end, in this world, you'll be put in a ditch with, burial shrouds. So therefore, we see that this is the way that we can understand that this grave that we have in front of us, and all of us one day will be put in. This grave is a place that it is not worth our time in this world to spend it all in the dunya, and then have nothing prepared for the akhirah. Interesting thing that we see from the imams is that would the imams cry for the grave? Would they teach us to cry for the grave? We talked about Imam Hassan alayhi salam. When death was mentioned, he would cry. When he thought of death, he would cry. In one of the du'as that probably tomorrow night some will do, Dua Abu Hamza. There's a nice section of it. I'm going to give you, a introduction to it. So when you read it tomorrow, hopefully, if we have tawfiq to read it, you look how beautifully Imam Sajjad talks about crying for the grave. Crying for the next world. فَمَا لِي لَا أَبْكِي. Why should I not weep? أَبْكِي لِخُرُوجِ نَفْسِي. I weep for my soul's departing my body. أَبْكِي لِظُلْمَةِ قَبْرِي. I cry, I weep for the darkness of the grave. The grave that will be dark. There'll be no light there. Imam Sajjad alayhi salam is crying. Why do you think the imams cry for this? Why would the imams cry for the grave? Aren't they have power of intercession? One of the answers is because the imams do not see their good actions The Imam, a good person, does not rely on their good actions. They rely on Allah. They rely on His benevolence and His rahmah. So Imam Sajjad is not looking at, for example, when he's reading this dua to God, that look at all my actions, look how much I have done. He does not even look at those because his ibadat and worship doesn't give him ujb, doesn't make him arrogant. He doesn't see that. Look at us. We do one thing, two things, three actions, and we see, God, you owe me something, you owe me heaven. Does He owe us anything? So this is a wake-up call, and I'll give another example of this. Many people, they cried, they were the highest of positions. They cried for the grave. But when it comes to us, we talk about the grave, barzakh. We don't really care as much. We're not concerned. One of the reasons is we're over-reliant on our good actions. We say, well, I pray, right? Nobody else, a lot of people in my society doesn't pray. I'm fasting, a lot of people are not fasting. We start to rely on our actions. And this is the first mistake that man can make. To become arrogant with his actions, to rely on his actions, not to rely on Allah. People will not enter heaven because of their actions in reality. They will enter heaven because of the mercy of Allah. If you really think you deserve the mercy of Allah, look at your actions and compare them to Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Compare it to him. He is Mizanul Amal, the scale of actions. It was only with God's grace that we will enter heaven. Abki lidiga lahdi. I weep for the narrowness of my vault. Abki lisu'ala munkar wa nakira iyaya. I weep for the munkar and nakir. This is all reality. It's all reality. Abki li khuruji min qabri. I weep for my coming out of the grave. Another person that, and there's an interesting story, that cried and was very worried about the grave was the mother of Imam Ali alayhi salam, Fatima bint Asad. Great lady. Alhamdulillah, I like mentioning her name and her story because hopefully this will be a gateway for us to cry for Imam Ali alayhi salam tomorrow night. Fatima bint Asad was a great lady. One of the great fada'il that she has that nobody else has, she gave birth in the Kaaba. Someone that gave birth in the Kaaba to Amir al-Mu'mineen is mentioned to be afraid of the grave. And therefore, when Rasulullah, the story has it this, the hadith has it this way. Fatima bint Asad, after a while, she passes away. Possibly after, we see that around the time of the conquest of Mecca, after that. So probably after year 8. A lady that took care of Rasulullah from the age of 8 that he was, because Abu Talib, her husband, became the guardian of Rasulullah. She would give food to Rasulullah first before her own children. She would respect Rasulullah more than her own children, even though she is taking care of him. And therefore Rasulullah, when Ali alayhi salam comes and is crying that Ali alayhi salam lost his mother, he comes to Rasulullah, and Rasulullah in this hadith asks, why are you crying? He says, I lost my mother. There Rasulullah says something very interesting. He says that she is my mother as well. She was my mother because she took care of him from the age of 8. And Rasulullah made some promises to her. So when it's time to bury her, and takes this holy lady, Fatima bint Asad, and puts her in the grave, Rasulullah does something extraordinary that later on they ask him. One, he comes barefoot. He comes barefoot for the mother of Ali ibn Abi Talib. He walks very slowly. He does 70 takbir. Allahu Akbar. Allah, 70 takbir. He gives his own clothes, parts of his own clothes, for her to be shrouded. He goes in the grave himself and lies down in the grave and says these statements, and everyone is surprised. Ibnuki, 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 La Ja'far wa la Aqil, Ibnuki, Ibnuki, Ali ibn Abi Talib. She says this. Everyone wondering what's going on. We haven't seen Rasulullah ever do this. So they ask, why, Rasulullah, did you come barefooted? Why did you say 70 takbirs? He says, because of the 70 rows of angels and the izdiham and crowd of angels, I did 70 takbir. I walked slowly barefooted because of all the angels that came for Fatima bint Asad. I gave of my own clothes. I went in her grave because when I mentioned to her about the grave, she said it is unbearable, the grave. And she was afraid of the grave. Who are we talking about? Fatima bint Asad, the mother of Ali, the lady who gave birth in the Kaaba, afraid of the grave. Imam Sajjad in his du'as is saying, I'm afraid of the grave, teaching us. Fatima bint Asad, we do a few actions here and there and we don't worry about the grave. We say we're good, it's all accepted, I'm sure. How do we know? How do you know? How do you know? You can do your actions exactly according to the most knowledgeable marja. It's sahih. It's only sahih. You don't know if it's maqbool or not. You do not know if it's accepted. Maqbooliyat is something else. Sihhat is something else. How do you know? Why do we say taqabbal Allah, may Allah accept? Because Allah has trained us in the system that He has placed for us, is that we don't know if our actions are accepted. Nobody knows if their actions are accepted. There are some signs, but we never know if our actions are accepted. So therefore, this is a way for us to become humble when the mother of Ali alayhi salam is worried about the grave and asks Rasulullah for help. That we should ask Rasulullah for help, Imam Ali alayhi salam for help. What about this question? Why did she say ibnuki? Why did he say ibnuki, ibnuki, ibnuki? Then he answers, because of the questions of the grave. Because they asked her, obviously, man rabbuk, man nabiyuk. She could answer. Sometimes you read this hadith and you say, where were these great people and where are we? She was asked in the grave, man, who's waliyuk? Who is your wali? And she was too shy, bashful to say, my son is my wali. I am the mother of the wali. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wajib. So I told her, ibnuki, your son is the wali. So this is the humbleness. This is the way that we should view barzakh. I don't think anybody here is close to the position of Fatima bint Asad. If she had this position and she is worried about the grave, what about us? We also have another, Fatima bint Muhammad. Let's give another salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Sayyidah Fatima, Sayyidatu Nisa al-Alamin, the best of ladies. She wishes, she desires, she tells Ali ibn Abi Talib, when you perform ghusl upon me and you bury me, ajlis inda ra'si, sit next to my head. When somebody is buried, the best part, when you do ziyarah to, the best part is where that head area is. Go where my head is when I'm on the ground, Ali alayhi salam. In the narration, فَأَكْثِرْ مِنْ تِلَاوَةِ الْقُرْآنِ. Ali, recite Qur'an for me after you bury me. وَالدُّعَى, do abundant dua. Recite Qur'an, it brings light to the grave. We'll mention what brings light to the grave, what makes your barzakh very full of light. Qur'an, dua. Others make Qur'an, do dua, recite Qur'an for you, recite dua for you. فَإِنَّهَا سَاعَةٌ يَحْتَاجُ فِيهَا إِلَىٰ أُنْسِ الْأَحْيَاءِ. Because this is a time period when you get buried, right when you get buried, that people love and have uns, they have, longing for those that are alive. They like someone that is alive to be next to them, right when they're buried, and for them to recite Qur'an for them. Who's Sayyidatul Fatima, Sayyidatul Nisa al-Alameen, the best of ladies, asking Ali to read Qur'an for me, make dua for me. How about us? Sometimes, there are people I know. They say, one person I know, he went to Hajj. And he says, it's interesting, when I went to Hajj, everyone was crying when they went to Hajj. So I was not crying. So why we're not crying? He says, because I did not have any sins. I didn't make any sins. He says, therefore I'm not crying, but everyone else was crying because they had sins. They were sinful people. He says, he was so arrogant. May Allah bless his soul, this person. So let's think about what can we do to make our barzakh a good barzakh. We'll end with this, the night's getting long. One is the relationship with God. God is the best friend to have when you're all alone. God is the friend for the lonely person. God is the friend for the scared person. Whenever somebody has wahsha, they turn to Allah. Whenever they're alone, they turn to Allah. How good is it for that person that has samt? Sometimes in Shahr Ramadan, practice this. Practice not talking. Practice not all the time, mashallah, speaking all the time, mashallah. I don't know how Allah created this jaw muscle. When you look, it's very, mashallah, very detailed and very actually fragile. I was looking at a 3D model. It's only detached a little bit. If you knew how much it's, it could maybe open up, we wouldn't talk so much. And this jaw muscle working all the time, subhanAllah, how many times it opens and closes? It doesn't need oil, for example. Any door, if it opened and closed this much, how much WD-40 would it need, for example? This doesn't need any WD-40. So have some a little bit of quiet. That's how you reach Allah. You don't always have to be with your friends. You don't always have to. I'm not saying don't be a lonely person and don't have any friends, but sometimes a little bit, be quiet a little bit. What happens? This was the way of our ulama. Ayatollah Sayyid Ahmad Khansari, great marja, who had karamat. The Bazaris came in Tehran, said, Ayatollah Burujurdi, give us a scholar. They were smart. He gave them a marja taqleed. Some said he was even a'lam of his time, the most knowledgeable, and had karamat. I don't have time right now to talk about some of his, ask me later on. I'll tell you some of the ihtiyat that he used to do. Some of the streets that he thought he shouldn't pass. It's not haram to pass. It would take 5 minutes to go home, 10 minutes. He would walk every day 1 hour not to go through some streets that he thought he shouldn't cross. They came to him and asked him questions. Hajaqa, how are you doing? How are you feeling? How are you, how's your durus? How's your classes? How's your family? How's everything? Kept asking him, waiting for him to say something. He just kept listening and listening. How's this? How's that? How's this? He said, maybe 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes. He kept talking to him. And at the end, he just said, Bade. Yes, Bade. He was so careful of what he said. But us, mashallah, over and over and over, that we talk either on the phone or ourselves and waste so much time. Take a little bit this Shahr Ramadan, something. Try it out. And see how close you become to Allah. Because that grave will be all alone. Nobody else will be there. It'll just be us and God. So if you have that relationship with God that you love being alone with Him, you love talking to Him, you love thinking of Him, then that grave will be a good place for you. But if not, you're going to be very lonely in that grave. So the first thing is build that relationship with God and be prepared for that time. You'll be all alone and nobody will be there. The second, charity and prayer of the Salatul Wahsha. Giving sadaqah for that person that passed away. If we have people that die in our community or have passed away, give charity on their behalf. In Shahr Ramadan, make sure if you fund the iftars here, make sure you include your marhumin. They're looking at you right now. And it will help them in the grave. 3, reading Quran and dua. How great it is to read Quran. How great it is. Make it for their intentions. I'm going to make Quran for this family member, my grandparents, great-grandparents, my friends that have passed away, my teachers, for example. 4, 40 people saying this dua. 40 people, and this is why it's inside, the Salat al-Mayyit we do. Allahumma inna la na'lamu minhu illa khayran wa anta a'lamu bihi minna. 40 people saying this. This will cause that person to have, ease in the grave. 40 people saying, I know nothing but good from this person. The 5th, putting the grave very slowly in the body slowly in the grave. And these last things, and I'll read the tradition, is salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli. The Prophet of Islam narrated to have said, أكثر الصلاة علي فإن الصلاة علي نورا في القبر ونور على الصراط ونور في الجنة. Say a lot of salawat upon me and my family, because this is light of the grave, light of the salat, that narrow bridge you pass, and light of heaven. Another is ruku' kamil. Sometimes you do ruku'. What's the minimum bowing you have to do? That your hands hit your knee. You don't have to go stretch too far. But it's mentioned that if a person does such a ruku', then there will be easiness of the grave. If a person does wudu in a way that their back is straight, such a ruku' will help us in the grave. The last thing that I would like to mention, last few things, besides the ruku', let me read the tradition. Man atamma ruku'ahu lam tadkhulhu wahshatun fil qab. They don't have wahsha in the grave. Person that's used to always doing ruku' in the right way. Say 90-degree angle. Those that pass away in the night of Friday, Thursday night, those that pass away on Friday, it says, Man mata yawmul jum'ah aw laylatul jum'ah rafa anhu adhabul qabr. They don't have adhabul qabr. Those that pass away on Friday, Thursday night. And the last thing, and this is where our hope is, the wilayat and love of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Hubbi wa hubb Ahl Bayti nafi'un fi sab'a mawatin. 7 areas that my love, the love of Rasulullah and the love of my family will help you. In the wafat, when you die. Right when you die, one of the first people you see is the Rasulullah and Imam Ali. Immediately they'll come to help you. The tradition has Ali alayhi salam comes to you and says, Ana Ali ibn Abi Talib alladhi kunta tuhib. I'm that Ali that you used to love. He comes and helps you right when you die. For fil qabr, in the grave. There's a story that a person was being punished and asked in the grave. He saw the angels frightening and he was scared. He saw fire. And right before he's going to be punished, he saw a man come, and because of respect of this man, they say, the entire fire cooled down. And he saw it was Ali ibn Abi Talib. He's coming to my grave. He's coming to save me. They had respected him. The fire cooled down. He asked though, he says, Ali, I saw you're leaving. The fire is cool now. Let me come with you. This dream, they say, he said that you cannot come with me because you did not act like me. You cannot come with me because you did not act like me. He turned off the fire for him, but he is not going to be with Ali ibn Abi Talib. That is for that person that loved Ali alayhi salam. That is like someone like Abu Dhar, for example. True love of Amir al-Mu'minin. Abu Dhar, they come to him. You know, Abu Dhar was starving. Abu Dhar was poor. He was sent in an area very far away. I believe in modern-day Syria. And in this place that he was sent, exiled to, either Sham, Lebanon, or Syria area, I can't remember right now, they come and give him all these gifts to Abu Dhar. And imagine a starving person, a hungry person, and he has gifts, he can feed his family. You know, when he died, he didn't even have enough money for a kafan, they say. He didn't have enough money for a burial shroud. So he says this to that person that sends, money from Muawiyah and his agents. He says, you made 2 mistakes. One, you think that Abu Dhar would sell Ali ibn Abi Talib. Mistake number 1, a starving person. Some say that at that time he didn't eat for 3 days. So mistake 1, you thought Abu Dhar would sell Ali ibn Abi Talib. 2, your mistake is you think the wilayat of Ali ibn Abi Talib is worth this much. It's worth much more than this. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. So his family was concerned when he died. He was a lover of Ali and Ali gave him honor. He didn't have a kafan. But it says in the narrations, the companions of Imam Ali happened to pass by him. And some of those companions, they saw that Abu Dhar was doing his burial procedures or at that time, and they come and give him a kafan and they bury them themselves, and Allah gives him honor, Abu Dhar. So عند النشور وعند الكتاب وعند الحساب وعند الميزان وعند الصلاة, all these scary, frightening places, those that love Imam Ali, those that love Rasulullah, those that love Sayyidah Fatima, they will be saved from these places with this love. Hopefully Allah, with these recommendations that we have from the narrations, we can focus more this Shahr Ramadan, focus more for the loneliness of the grave, inshallah. May Allah give light to us in our graves, inshallah. May Allah give light to all of those that have passed away from our family members, light in their graves, inshallah. May Allah keep away wahsha of the grave from us. May Allah keep away the punishments of the grave from us. May Allah keep away the pressing and the constriction of the grave from us, inshallah. Ya Allah, accept our fast. Ya Allah, accept our salat. Accept our a'mal. Allah, you said in the hadith, your prophet said, that dua is mustajab in this month. Answer the du'as of everyone here, inshallah. Ya Allah, cure the sick. Have blessed the souls of the departed. Help the oppressed. And return our Imam of the age with a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. If you have any questions about Barzakh, if I know the answer, I'll answer them. If not, then we can continue with the next part of the program. You have a question or no? Yes, as long as it's not hard. If I know the answer. Maybe just do it with the niyat of raja that it's accepted, and do it with the raja that this is what they told me to say. I'm just saying what they told me to say. Maybe it's a good shahada. Don't overthink it. Just say, Allahumma, I don't see anything but khair. Maybe Allah has, you overlook those weaknesses He has. You look at that khair. So with that intention of that, this is what the Imam said to recite, and this is the way I'm just going to recite it. But obviously, Allah knows, the person that really did no khair and those that did a lot of dhulm and harmed people. Yes. For example, salat, tanha an al-fahsha wal munkar. Salat that accepted, it repels us from evil. So if you do salat, and after praying you feel like for sure you don't like haram, you're not even interested in haram, no, that's an accepted salat. But if you did salat and right after, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, we go back, to the world and retract it to the world, know that salat might not be accepted. Any questions from the sister's side? Oh, this is hard. Well, let me drink some water so I don't pass out. Getting ready for this question. I was at a Q&A, and they asked so many questions. It was a bonfire. They asked so many questions. I was like, are they questioning to know, or are they questioning us two sheikhs? I was like, maybe they're questioning us to see if we're legitimate or not. It was like an exam. It's like the bar exam or something. They kept asking from everything. Yeah. No, stuff. It's a good question, possibly. But for them, they don't feel it. Remember, it's a different rotba. It's a different. When they say, where is barzakh? We said it's not a place or a time or something. It's just a different level of life. So when you consider they have been at another level of life, then it's something different for them. It's not like they've been here necessarily for that much time. It's just a different level. Maybe one way is to disregard time and disregard place for barzakh, because there's no time and place. It's just they're somewhere else. Or the other answer would be that, yeah, okay, maybe they are there longer, but what's the problem? So they're in barzakh more, but barzakh is like heaven and hell for them. And one of the first things that happens is that when